Okay, Jack, I've had a look at your first draft. The first thing I'd say is, where is your essay question? You need to have that in your header, along with your SACE number and your name, because you need to be addressing this in each one of your main body paragraphs. Second thing I would say is, you've submitted about 350 words, but your 209 of those are for your introduction, which is too long, and only 118 of those are on your main body paragraph, which is too short. So I've shown you a few places where you can be cutting your intro. Your intro is good. You're showing, you've given the who produces what, and you've introduced the main connecting idea, the effects that mental illness can have in our lives. So that's good. Now, your explanation, your expression is a little bit confusing here. So with Foxcatcher and OCD, Miller and Hilborn. Now, I've highlighted explored because remember, when we're talking about films and novels, we talk in the present tense. It's an ever-present tense. So every time you open it or watch it, they are exploring. So use present tense. Explore the effects. Now, you said differing mental disorders and conditions can have on people's mental health through storytelling by different mediums. Can you hear that? That's a bit of a mouthful. Why don't you just go into more detail here, which is, and you're sort of doubling up. You're saying different mental disorders and conditions. Well, they're kind of the same thing. Can have on people's mental health. You might just say through very different mediums. While I remember, I'm just going to highlight movie, and remember, by now you know very clearly that we don't refer to movies in formal English, we refer to films. So you're now responsible to change that throughout your essay. Now, I've cut this. We don't need to know how many best director. That's not relevant to the essay question. You might add this. That's his lifelong battle with OCD and bipolar, somewhere up here. What about the film is 2014, but is it set? Oh, it's set in America in the 1980s. So that's all fine. So that's fine, your intro. Just tidy that up a bit. Now, your main body paragraph. You start with a good topic sentence. Both Miller and Hilborn believe that mental illness affects. Now, you're doubling up again. Affects does mean change. So you can cut this. Save this for your analysis, Jack. That's where the performance standards are. Affects suffers behaviors greatly. Now, what do you mean with differing causes and effects? You say for Hilborn, the cause of his fluctuating behavior is his OCD, which is kept from living what he sees in normal life. Good. However, when Hilborn meets who he simply calls her, all the tics, now that's really good. You've embedded that really nicely, Jack. And this shows the reader, not to the reader, or reveals would be even better. Find that handout that I gave you with words to describe what the author's doing in relation to the reader. That whoever this woman is absolutely captivates him to the point where all he can think about is her. What's actually happening is that when he meets, you've got to really look at what this tells us. When he meets this woman, all the tics, so those are all the symptoms of his disorder, all the constantly refreshing images. So that gives us a really good idea of what it's like to live with OCD. It's like a constant refreshing of images in their head just disappeared. So he experiences a moment of calm. All the ticks, all the constantly refreshing images, this repetition of all. Doesn't that really reinforce how exhausting this must be for sufferers? And so through the repetition and the imagery of sort of cinematography about it, refreshing images, highlight to the reader the wonderful feeling of release that Hilborn gains when he meets her, release from his mental illness. So do you see the slight difference in how you're analysing that example? And then you're going to have to go on to, is there something similar or different in Foxcatcher? Because here you're really talking about how they've sort of disappeared. You may be jumping the gun a bit, because surely you should talk about all those, the way that he expresses what it feels like. So when he repeats the eyelash on a cheek, the eyelash on a cheek, the eyelash on a cheek, or how he's had to open and shut the door or check the doors locked however many times. Those are the symptoms. Now that's caused by OCD, but so you might say, so in contrast, Miller focuses on core, like, so OCD doesn't seem to have a cause. It's made worse by stress and lack of harmony, but Miller focuses on how it is other people's lack of understanding or poor behavior towards vulnerable sufferers of mental illness that actually exaggerates and makes their condition worse. So you're certainly on the right lines, but you should have submitted a lot more by now, Jack, so you need to go away and work on that. Okay.